Hi, this is Vinny from the iMoot team. It is my absolute pleasure today to introduce Miriam and Tabitha with a discussion session for iMoot, for this iMoot17 lesson working group proposal. Two very, very experienced Moodlers. Tabitha, I met you in 2008 was the first time we met at the Brisbane Moodle Moot. And Miriam, we've met many times virtually. I can't remember if we've actually met face to face, but we're very lucky to have two very experienced Moodlers with us for this discussion session. So thank you very much, ladies, for presenting today.
Thank you, Vinny.
All right.
So I'm Tabitha. That's Miriam. We're both currently working at Waitemata District Health Board as instructional designers. We've both worked with HRDNZ, who are a Moodle partner here in New Zealand. And we've both worked at Unitech, which is we follow each other around.
Yeah, well, you put it that way.
We've both worked at Unitech, which is a large polytechnic in New Zealand, responsible for things like LMS administration and strategy around learning technologies and academic advice. We both have an education background, but have been long-time Moodlers. And so, and
I'm really not sure.
Yeah. We previously were involved in a working group in Australia for one of the moots, which is why we thought, hey, that was really awesome, and it was a great way to get people in the community to discuss things that need to be helped along by the community and encourage conversation around particular things that we could develop. I don't know if anyone here was at the Moodle Moot in Melbourne.
Melbourne, yeah.
Where they first did working groups, but I thought it was quite a nice way to start that conference and spend some time working together and really getting involved and hearing different people's points of view. So we wanted to do the same thing with the lesson module, because the lesson module needs some love. So yeah, we want to see if there's enough interest from the community to get a bit of groundswell and start looking at what we could do to improve the lesson module. And if there is a lot of interest, then maybe we can all work together to find a way to get development considered, talk to HQ, talk to Moodle Users Association, talk to anybody who might be willing to support and fund or potentially develop something with the lesson module. So, yeah.
So we'll just start in a slightly presentation way by looking at the lesson in its current state. So, by starting by looking at a lesson. We put together this lesson for Moodle Moot in New Zealand last year, and it was an interesting challenge because it was quite complex putting together for something that wasn't actually going to be used apart from at a conference. So we made a theme around our course around mythical creatures, and so this lesson was for people to discover their own mythical creature. So they would answer a series of questions about preferences and end up at an end of a branch somewhere with what their mythical creature was. So these are my answers.
Okay, so part of the reason we put this lesson together was to show a different way of using lesson.
Other than linear.
We wanted it to be, and the objective is to help people understand the characteristics which apply to different mythical creatures, and to then use the differences in the people's responses for other activities in the workshop.
Yeah.
So okay. So continue.
So at the first page, continue. And the first question was, did you like to retain some human qualities, or would you like to be something completely different? So you are a humanoid or you are not. And so that's our first branch right there. So I answered not, and was then given, would you like to be able to soar through the skies, or are you much happier down below? And I like to fly. So that was a second branch, which then took us to other choices. So since you're flying, scales or feathers? And I chose scales, which led me to dragon. And so this is an end of branch with just a picture and our information about that mythical creature. So it was to demonstrate one way to use a sort of pick a path type feel to then get some information. And part of it was that you would then team up with other people who had ended up at other points with other mythical creatures and to share your information. Like a choose your own adventure book, exactly. So making it, however, was an entirely different story.
So you create pages with no jumps. Then you create more pages and more pages and more pages. And then you go back and try and work out where your jumps should go. So you have this chicken and egg sort of problem there, and that you have to know where you want to go to get there, and you have to create the other place before you can connect to it.
There.
So it doesn't exist yet, so you can't make it. Yeah, so and in this particular example, all of the pages are content pages.
Yeah. And then there was the issue of, which page is it again that I'm jumping to? Is it the one that's called What's Your Habitat, or What is Your Habitat? And if you named them both the same or similar things, but they were actually for different parts of the branch, then the jump doesn't give you, when you're choosing the jumps, it doesn't give you a lot of hints. So you want the page names to make sense to the learner because they appear right at the top of the page when they're looking at it. But how do you also make them make sense to the designer?
So we ended up naming them, and then naming them for us while we were editing, and then renaming them for the learner.
Yeah. So we actually had really like names that said things like this page from this page, you know. So, and then that obviously doesn't make sense to the learner. So once we had all the jumps in place and we tested them all, we then had to go back and edit them for like the 5th time, it felt like, each page, just to get it to look right. It doesn't seem very user-friendly, does it? And there is the expanded view, though, but it's not that much better. And it's really difficult to work an expanded view when you've got a lot of pages. And trying to explain to teachers what the options are. Import questions, add a content page, add a cluster, add an end of branch, add an end of cluster, add a question page. So yeah, would be nice to be able to choose a file to put all the pages relating to one branch in. Like Twine. Yeah. So yeah, it's wait, what's this? Prepare yourself. Right. So this is actually the process that we had to go through in order to get that lesson to fruition. is we started off with our lovely messy whiteboard with lots of writing, a bit of reflective glare, but it really did help us to pick out our creatures and our endpoints. And so we started to look for themes and commonalities and differences that we needed for the work to flow. But wouldn't it have been neat if we could do that inside Moodle?
And Stuart said to us, hey, you should show people you're working when you're at the conference. Show people how you made this. And we went, it's a bit of a mess. So
this is stage one.
Yeah, you did. You don't remember that?
And then I was like, I want to make more sense of that. And I want to start making tidier lists of characteristics of various different creatures. But then I went from a nice tidy list back to, but I need to organize this into some sort of structure that I can use in a lesson. And I ended up with this mess again.
So I had to make something pretty.
It made sense to me at the time.
I had to make something prettier than that.
Yes. So we made this instead.
But we couldn't make it in Moodle. We should have been able to make that in Moodle.
But that's actually what we worked from when we built the lesson, because that showed the flow and the interrelationships and the branching and all that sort of stuff. That stuff that's really difficult to see when you're building a lesson, because lessons are linear. Like the editing screen of a lesson is linear. Does this look linear to you?
So if you could make it like this in Moodle and have it set up all of the pages and set up all of the relationships, we were then starting to talk about something really quite useful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Miriam drew these. Aren't they amazing?
Right. So, here, we're going to start asking you guys for some ideas is what we're looking for.
So we both tend to use content pages as much as we can, and every now and then we might use a question page. We don't really bother with the others, and when we teach teachers, we certainly don't go into any of the others because they just get lost. And as it is, they already will start making things. They'll make question page, and then they realize they're not ready for the question page. So then they want to make a content page, but all their stuff's in the question page. And so they're trying to work out how to move things around to different pages. And quite a lot of the teachers just don't have high enough digital literacy skills to cope with editing multiple pages at once and working out what should be content and what should be questions, let alone clusters or branches. So we'd be quite keen to hear about other people's experiences of using the other things, and if there's anything in there that they would like to suggest that could be done to make it a bit more accessible for people or help.
It's funny, branching is available in the questionnaire module. How visual is it though? I have to admit I haven't played much with the questionnaire module, but it's something that I should write down so that I can look into.
So yeah, if you wanted to talk about that, either chuck it in the chat or just activate your mic.
Yeah, turn your mic on if you want to shout over us. So Trish says another idea would be to have the system automatically name and link the branches as we go. Yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much momentum there is for the lesson module insofar as H5P seems to be gaining a lot of traction, and it's a very visual addition to Moodle, and there's already some development toward question branching for various modules, whether that be interactive videos or other things. So I wonder whether the lesson module is is sort of headed towards retirement or
obsolete.
Yeah, obsolescence. There we go.
Yeah. I played with H5P a little while ago. Is it still like can you build natively in Moodle if you have the H5P plugin, or do you still
Yeah.
somewhere else?
The most recent update, maybe it came out maybe a month ago or something. It was very recent. There are significant improvements in the editor that shows up within Moodle itself. The H5P editor that shows up, it looks like an iframe kind of within the edit dialog. So it's still not perfect, but it's a lot better than what it was.
Does it still go away? Does it still reference and go away to an external site?
No, I think you build it inside Moodle. So when you add a H5P module to your course, you go to an edit screen, and then the editor is built into your edit.
Oh, neat.
All right, and it stores it.
It's not just iframing it in from somewhere else.
It's storing it in the Moodle database. Is it storing it in Moodle data folder, or is it being stored on the H5P server?
I think it's on your local server. I'd have to check the back end. I haven't looked for a while since the update, but I think it is.
That would be good, because the point of having a module in Moodle that could do something like that is that the data stays in Moodle and the code is in Moodle, and you're not relying on an external service, so that you can run it locally on a machine that has no internet.
Yeah, if you've got like offline Moodle.
Right.
Offline Moodle.
Yeah. The other thing is to make a conscious decision about dropping a module that's been around for a long time, like the questionnaire and feedback modules. Like, oh, we're not going to use questionnaire anymore. Feedback's going to be the new module. A lot of people keep using questionnaire. To move people away from lesson, you'd have to. It's quite hard, and you'd have to make sure that you're thinking through what people are using lesson for and how they're using it, and what would be the best way to still meet their needs and improve on their situation. So just being mindful that it's not as simple as just dropping a module. It's sort of something you have to plan. That makes sense?
And Trisha's feedback about lesson, presumably, rather than H5P, is it would be good if it created 2 pages, one with a teacher viewable only label, and one with fin. Sorry, I'm not quite sure I understand. You could then have another label or title with the student that the students could name anything. 2 comments separated.
Well, let Trisha explain that more, and we'll bring out some other questions to sort of talk about. The move page thing we thought was a bit interesting. Like, where are you going to move a page to in a linear display? So at the moment, when you're looking at all the pages are like in a list. No lesson I've ever built's really been in a list. So it's always a bit confusing as to where you'd move a page to and what order you'd apply, which is why we thought let's bring up that in case people have ideas on improvements there. And reports and grades. So the example that we used before, we didn't have anything graded because they're all content pages. But we wanted to just say, hey, has anyone got anything to tell us about what they're doing with grades and reports? How are you finding the essay grading, and do you use the email grade feature? Does that do what you want? Should it be doing some different things? And I know there's class statistics. How useful are they? You know, seeing people's number of attempts. You see the date and time they did their attempt and how many minutes for, things like that. Are there other bits of information or better ways of displaying that information that you'd like us to try and capture?
Sorry, just typing. One of the problems is the end of lesson thing. Yes. Isn't that still hideous?
Yeah, we have had people tell us that on the end of lesson they are lost and they don't know how to get out, and so they close the window because if they've been using things like SCORMs, they can't quite work out what to do. They end up just shutting the whole window down, and they're going, "Oh, I've lost the course." They don't, can't find their way out.
Yeah.
And on activity completion, if you're doing completion, do you need them to exit appropriately with the lesson?
Yeah, so that's actually exactly what Becky just said.
Oh, yeah.
The completion tracking is often a problem because if you don't get to the end of lesson page, then it doesn't mark as complete.
Yeah. And so
tell us about it.
Yeah. So some of the ways that we tried to get around the people are lost would be to have a link that looks, make it look like a button, like Scott talked about earlier, about making things look like look nice using a little bit of HTML. We'd make these buttons, and so you make the button on the last page of the lesson, but you haven't actually ended, but it would lead them back to the right place in the course. But then, of course, you're messing up your course completion tracking yourself as a designer. So you solve one problem and create a new one.
Oh, the children of
we have a person. We have a small person. So we thought we should take you through the activity settings. There's going to be jumping around in here. Oh, now they're all in here. No, go away. Good night. So in the activity settings, a problem that we have. Maybe you should do this bit, Miriam.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you want me to take over and you just mute yourself while you deal with Childageddon? This is sort of, we wanted to get your feedback on the various different ways of the various different settings in the activities. Oh God, the various different settings in the lesson. It's late. So this is sort of standard Moodle stuff. You've got a name and a description, and we're aware that yes, you have a name and description for a lot of different activities, but why is there not a help dialogue that explains that name is what the learners click on to open the activity, and the description, it would be good to tell people that they're describing the activity and it's not actually the content of the activity in this box. So the lesson content doesn't go in there. And that applies to all modules, not just lesson. There's sometimes a bit of confusion with users in stuff not putting, like in pages, not putting stuff in the description, putting stuff in the page content box and things like that. So Trish says yes, separate labels based on the branches and a label title for the page the student will see. Yeah, just labeling things a bit better.
Yeah, so I don't know, I've lost track of where we're up to. Did you talk about this page that's on the screen?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess if anyone else has anything to add about general sort of name and description part of the settings other than the points that we've raised. And Matthew also said you need a way to record an exit event that is idiot proof.
Yeah.
Yeah. The exit out of a lesson is still a bit rough.
You could create a tour that says if you don't do exactly what we say right now, you won't get your lesson recorded.
Lesson will die.
So appearance
on clothes or something. Yeah.
The appearance settings, and so one of the things that I thought that would be good in the appearance settings is I want a progress bar, yes, and I want it to look like this and behave like this, and I want it to be over there, and I want to use icons and colors and bit more interesting than I want a progress bar.
Yeah.
And the default feedback, like the default feedback in here, I don't think it behaves the same way as default feedback like in quizzes. I think it's a little bit different, so it's not consistent with other modules. So you can't choose what the default feedback is, like for correct or incorrect or partly correct or whatever.
Having to set a maximum number of answers for the whole lesson.
Yeah, what does slideshow do?
Oh, slideshow. I played with that a long time ago. You can make things look ever so slightly prettier by doing things in a slideshow mode, and it creates like a fixed width background where you can set like a background color and something. It's very vague memories of it being, oh look, it's slightly pretty, but impractical.
The display menu option is quite good, and being able to display it only if they've got a grade, because in some cases you don't want them to see where they're going. Like if it is a pick a path, you don't want them to know that they're going to fall in a hole later if they take that path. So not showing them the menu is quite helpful.
Yes.
Should we take a look at the next setting?
Yep, you have control.
Cool. Availability and flow control. Are people using these settings a lot?
Lesson module integrate into LRS in any way.
Learner records.
Oh my
Learner
God,
record store? Is it Learner record store? Not like the database does, I don't think. I think they just see that they completed it. Do they see their essay responses? No, they don't. I don't think they see their essay responses. I just created a course, a preceptor, Miriam, that I remember I made all these lessons and then went, damn it, nothing is displaying where I want it.
It's displaying.
And, yeah, so when you create a database activity, you can say that the database, if you put the question in with the answer into the templates, then when they look at their learner report, they can see all the questions and answers all in learner report. But I don't think with lesson they see anything useful other than they completed a lesson.
They completed a lesson.
A grade, yeah.
Maybe,
yeah.
if you've graded it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
There's inconsistencies in what gets fed where. That was not the right password.
Are people using the availability and flow control?
So Miranda said allow student review is useful. Matthew uses flow control more than availability.
Has anyone used more than one page to show? Number of pages to show?
What? Oh. I normally leave most of these things on default.
Yeah.
And then just go back and change what I need to.
It'd be good to hear if people are finding the grading suitable for their needs. It's pretty similar in the main parts to the grading and other activities, but yeah, I don't know.
Like, does anyone in this room use graded lessons for things? And then how are they being graded? Are they automatically graded because they're multiple choice questions, or are they essay graded? And how do you find that works? Does it work? Is it fit for purpose? Could it be improved? So Matthew says,
Yeah.
I like the methodology better than quizzes as separate activity. The pedagogy seems better for some things. And Miranda says, I see the lesson more as learning than assessment. Although, having said that, Miranda set up a lesson activity to be used as assessment at WDHB. Privacy.
I find that if you explore some of the other LMSs, don't say that I said that, but I see this methodology being used a lot, particularly in mobile learning, that the learning activity and the assessment activity are sort of integrated. edX, for example, a lot of their courses seem to have this approach that you do sort of a small module and then have questions immediately after. The fact that your questions are so tightly connected to the learning activity, I think, is a real important approach.
And that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons we like lessons. We'd just like to see them better.
Learning activity. And I think if you put quizzes separate, oftentimes the time of the quiz and the learning activity becomes there's a lot more discontinuity. So and with mobile lifestyle and everybody going at a pace and taking micro lessons, as it were, the lesson activity lends itself more toward that approach and that pedagogy.
Yeah. Because you get to the end and you've done the assess part of it as well as the learning part of it. You don't then have to go, oh, now I've got to do the quiz to show that I was paying attention.
With quiz though, you can, if your intention is just watch this video or read this text or do this little learning bit and then have some questions, you can still do that in quiz, but you don't get the same sort of go off in a different direction that you get with lesson. Because you can say in the quiz, say on my first page I'm going to have one scenario, it's going to have a little video at the top, and then it's going to have 4 questions that are about that scenario. There might be a multi-choice, there might be a numerical question, there might be some kind of drag and drop thing, a closed question, whatever. And then when they move to the next page, they get a different bit of learning at the top of the page. So you can kind of do that with the quiz, but you just don't get the pathways.
So adaptive feedback
it's
kind of gets there, but it's just not as good as the lesson does it. But setting up a lesson is a bit of a dog.
So should we keep moving on anyway? Yeah. So we wanted to just say, hey, look,
we need to get.
We've got a whole lot more in here.
We need to get to the rest.
Yeah. So common modules, obviously they're common. Tags, competencies, but recent improvements.
I think we need to get to Adrian's bit.
Yeah. So there is an option. There has been a new development in lesson, and it's the option to duplicate a page. So you can duplicate a page now, but you still are stuck with whatever that page type was. If it was a content page, it's still a content page. If it was a question page, it's still a question page. But we wanted to talk to you about the concept that Adrian Grieve presented to the Moodle General Developers meeting.
And July 2015, just saying.
Yeah. And everybody there seemed to think it was great. And
very enthusiastic.
So Adrian worked on this in his spare time. So he obviously thought it was worth looking into. And I think we need to find more spare time for Adrian. So this is what he came up with. You'd have some kind of box here, and you have the elements of the lesson at the top, and you throw things together. You can create the content of the page in there at the beginning, and then as you're making the pages, you can decide what those relationships should be. You can start to see a bit of a mind map thing happening.
And it was just a matter of taking those items at the top there, dragging them down onto that work area to create your pages and create your links, watch the video that I linked to on the first slide.
Sorry.
No, don't watch it right now.
That one. Click here for a minute. But if you want to find it, just go go to Moodle Tracker, and you just need that 50905 number. You'll find it.
Yeah.
But we will publish our presentation in
the presentation
iMoot.
is in the course. I just will unhide it when we're done here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so nice, and he demonstrates how you can unlink and then relink it to somewhere else and move them around.
This thing
and clusters. Look,
clusters.
Clusters.
Now we know what a cluster is. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Who wants Adrian to work on this? We do.
Yes. If lessons look like this, they would be, I think, used a lot more, and people would use them in a lot less linear way. So thanks, Adrian, for putting that proof of concept together. The link that I put in the slide goes to the, what was it, 40 something minutes into the video?
43 minutes. Don't watch the whole thing. The video. Start at 43 minutes.
It's like a 5-minute showpiece where he demonstrates this bit, and then they move on to other topics. So you don't need to watch the whole video just to see the lesson bit.
Yeah, so he just change the link with the link button here, and then he just clicks on the thing he wants it to link to, and it magically links to the right thing. And he can delete pages from here and edit pages from here. It's going to be great if he could get time to work on it. And yeah.
But that was 2015, July, that he presented that. So it's a slow-moving beast.
So we wanted to hear what you would
like,
what you love, what you want to keep.
Sorry.
What challenges and limitations you've found, and what future state Blue Sky, if you could have anything you wanted in lesson, what would it be?
Ready, set, go. And I'll read them out loud because I'm not sure, I don't remember if the chat gets recorded in the recording, which is why I've been reading your chat things out loud.
Okay.
I suspect it probably does. Oh, I remember where the chat doesn't get recorded. Different tool that we use at a different workplace.
So Matthew said, "Oh, the lesson UI feels like driving a car that lost its power steering." Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some modules in Moodle that teachers just don't go near because they just look at it and they go, "Oh no," and they back away. They just back away. And lesson has been one of those.
Lesson database.
Yeah. So when we teach people how to use the different activities, when we usually start with glossary and then go, right, when you're ready for steroids, let's go to database, and then we'll really get some action happening in your course, and you'll start getting some really exciting stuff happening. I feel like lesson needs that little push so that people can go, yeah, I get it now. Steroids. Yeah, people tend to go for a quiz and assignment because they have to. They feel that that's what online learning is all about, and so they'll work on those. But they don't necessarily want to make that leap into lesson when they could just upload that PowerPoint they made. So, yeah, I'd like to make it more accessible for people, and hopefully, with lots of people's ideas, we can.
And if
give
you're
those ideas back.
If you are not wanting to share your idea right now, or you want to think about it a little more, there is the forum inside the iMoot course for this presentation. Please share ideas there. If you go away and you think, oh, I should have said this, jump in there, share it.
Yeah, you can also find us on Twitter.
You can tweet us. Tweet us your ideas.
Oh,
find
cool.
us on LinkedIn. Send us your ideas.
So Matthew said
brilliant. Thanks, Matthew.
The H5P Jay's libraries and the lesson and what you created lessons sit in the local database. So that's good if we are going to see H5P in court. Apparently there is a session on H5P tomorrow.
Excellent.
Depending on your time zone tomorrow. So.
Oh no, no, don't give us the bad news now. Oops, jumped the gun. Oh.
2 p.m. in New Zealand time. Okay.
Okay. I can't make that.
I can't.
Done.
I can't work out how many hours that is from now. Just look on your own schedule, everyone.
Hi, this is Vinny again. It seems a nice opportunity for me to jump in, and thank you very much. Thank you both very much again for your presentation. Certainly lots and lots for people to think about, and that new interface would be amazing if we can get some movement on that and promote the tracker link and kind of get it out there and get people voting for it and get
yes,
some development
vote.
happening.
Vote
Yeah.
and watch that issue.
So maybe grab if you've got that if you could
bring
grab
that slide back up.
Yeah, throw it into the chat or put it onto the forums and
yeah, we'll put the links on the forum as well. Actually, that's a good.
Yeah. Because that will automatically get sent out to all participants.
Hey,
that's probably easiest. Okay, so fantastic. Thank you ever so much. I shall stop the recording. The next session is the Participants Lounge Oranges Cafe for just a bit of relaxing and chatting. So you're welcome to carry on the conversation in Oranges Cafe or just hang out and meet and chat and catch up. And I'll see you guys around the rest of the iMoot.
Indeed. Thanks, Vinny.
Thanks
everybody for your contributions as well.